One of the most heatedly debated topics in current political discourse is the future of the United States' energy. As the global supply of fossil fuels gradually diminishes, we must conjure up additional ways to fulfill our country's energy needs. Therefore, the question I want to answer is although many energy alternatives have been discovered, why hasn't one stuck and why are we still relying on fossil fuels? To do this, I will delve into modern conception of energy, describe why a new energy source is important, and give an understanding of these different types of energy sources. In this case, the main types of energy sources being debated are nuclear energy, solar energy, wind energy, and hydro sources. Each has its own benefits and downfalls, and even though all types are being implemented today, we are still relying on fossil fuels. Not only are fossil fuels becoming more and more scarce, but they are also extremely destructive for our environment. For example, the emissions from vehicles and other technologies are argued to be a direct contributor to global warming. For this reason, and a plethora of others, many people believe our society should reduce its reliance on technologies run by fossil fuels and seek recourse in alternative types of energy sources. Before exploring the energy of America's future, however, it is important to have an understanding of what energy is. In its very basic sense, energy means the capability for something to do work. As humans, we get our energy through the food we eat. So, how does this translate to technology, especially since it doesn't eat? Technologies gain energy through sources such as electricity allow them to work. There are two different types of energy: kinetic and potential. Kinetic energy is the energy possessed by an object in motion. Potential energy, on the other hand, is stored energy that may eventually be translated into kinetic energy. Both of these types of energy are vitally important in today's production of technology. Why is finding a new source of energy important? Fossil fuels were introduced in the 1700s in the form of coal. This energy source has been working consistently for us for decades. So why is there a sudden need for change? As mentioned earlier, fossil fuels are becoming more and more scarce. We're depleting fossil fuels at such a rapid rate that soon there won't be much left. The limited supply of fossil fuels subsequently drives up the prices of these energy sources, making it harder for consumers to acquire them. According to Electrocity, by 2052, we have depleted all of our oil reserves, and by 2088, we will be completely bereft of all fossil fuels. The United States alone uses about 25% of all fossil fuels in the world. Another issue with high level of fossil fuel consumption is that many scholars and scientists believe that these emissions are a leading cause of global warming. Whether or not one believes in this worldwide phenomenon, there is no denying that the average temperature of the Earth has increased over the last decade. According to the EPA, the average surface temperature across the 50 states has risen at an average rate of 0.14 degrees Fahrenheit. Although such a rise may not be entirely attributable to fossil fuel emissions, they still remain a large factor in the world's gradual increase in temperature. As seen in the graph, the average global temperature keeps increasing, even if it is just gradual. What does this mean for our Earth? The rise in temperature is caused by the release of CO2 into the atmosphere and the depletion of the ozone layer, which is our protection from the radiation of the sun. Many are afraid with this increase in temperature, the polar ice caps will completely melt. This calls for some sort of solution because we cannot continue relying on fossil fuels. There are many types of ways to create energy. The first most commonly used in current energy production is nuclear energy. Nuclear power is created when a uranium atom is split in two, and the energy released is used to turn water into steam. The steam then drives turbine generators to produce electricity. Nuclear energy tends to be cheaper for the general public and creates fewer emissions than using fossil fuels. So why haven't we completely converted to nuclear energy? Nuclear power is extremely dangerous. As we saw in Japan over 2 years ago, if something were to go wrong in a nuclear power plant, the resulting explosion could jeopardize the lives of thousands of people. Another problem with nuclear energy is the amount of radiation that it emits. The radiation can be extremely deadly if someone is exposed to too much. Workers and surrounding population are extremely at risk for radiation exposure. A third problem is the disposal of nuclear waste. It can take up to 10,000 or more years depending on the material. For this waste can be completely eliminated, this waste will continue to expose radiation to the Earth. Lastly, this type of energy is used largely with infrastructure, not with cars and other appliances. This means that we would not be able to completely rely on nuclear energy for all our needs. Another source of energy is solar energy. Solar energy is a renewable energy source that cannot be used up like fossil fuels can. How does solar energy work then? The heat a person feels from the sun is the energy it releases. When something is warm, the molecules within are moving at a rapid rate, giving it more energy and warming it up. To harness this energy, scientists realize that when light hits certain materials, the energy turns into an electrical current. Solar energy can be used with a wide range of products. Businesses, homes, cars, and other technologies can use solar energy to power them. The benefits of solar energy are that it doesn't give off CO2 emissions and it is essentially free to use. The whole world has access to the sun. This sounds like such a good source of energy, so why isn't more used? The main reason why many businesses and homes aren't using solar energy is because the cost of installing solar panels for many people is out of reach. Likewise, solar power cars are very expensive. Convincing people to convert to solar power is difficult when cheaper energy options are readily available. Nevertheless, we are seeing this shift, and as solar energy technology advances, this type of energy will be adopted on a larger scale. Next, wind energy is becoming increasingly more popular. In many places such as Palm Springs, wind energy can be extremely efficient. Windmills are commonly used to harness wind energy. These windmills have spinning blades that catch the wind and force the propellers to move. On the inside of the windmill, there is a shaft that moves when the blades of the windmill are also moving. Then the shaft goes through a gear transmission box. Here the turning speed is amplified. This transmission box is attached to a different high-speed shaft. This shaft turns a generator that makes electricity be used. Again, wind energy is a renewable resource and will not be depleted. One problem with wind energy, however, is that it requires a constant supply of wind to operate. Without wind, there can be no wind energy. On top of this, wind must be consistently gusting at a rate from 12 to 4 miles per hour in order for windmills to generate any significant amount of energy. Another wind energy problem revolves around the sheer amount of windmills that would be to require power in an entire country. For example, 11,368 windmills in California only supply enough energy for the city of San Francisco. Building enough windmills for every city in the US would not only require a lot of room, but an exorbitant amount of money. It doesn't seem possible that the United States could make enough windmills to power a whole country. The last energy that is becoming increasingly more popular is hydroenergy. Hydroenergy is the use of moving water to create energy. This energy is largely used with dams and with ocean currents. Dams have running water that run through them that move turbines to turn on generators that make electricity. The generator is able to make electricity because as the turbine blades move, this forces a series of magnets to rotate past copper coils inside the generator. Those copper coils produce alternating currents by moving electrons. Then moving the AC to a transformer then makes the AC into a higher voltage, which is sent to power lines. Dams are extremely efficient and make up 24% of the world's electricity. According to Kevin Bosner, the world's hydropower plants output a combined total of 675,000 megawatts, the energy equivalent of 3.6 billion barrels of oil. Dams come under a lot of heat because they have many negative effects on the environment. They block natural movements of fish, they can change habitats of the water, they destroy water quality, and they can also change or slow down currents of the river. Hydro sources represent the last major source of alternative energy being used today, but are there any other options currently being developed? The answer to the previous question is a resounding yes. One of these alternative sources of energy is hydrogen fuel. When oxygen goes over the positive atom and the hydrogen goes over a negative atom, energy is generated. This type of energy is largely targeted at machines that run on motors such as cars. One benefit from this type of energy is that it gives off no emissions. The problem is that this energy has not been highly commercialized. All of the hydrogen on Earth has been oxidized, so it is hard to find pure oxygen. For the time being, scientists must make their own pure oxygen, and this process uses more energy than it provides. Could this be the energy of the future? It seems likely if pure hydrogen becomes more readily accessible. What is our solution? As one can deduce from the previous analysis, there is no one single solution for all of our country's energy needs. Every single source of energy is going to be used to try and further ourselves from our dependency on fossil fuels. The United States has continued to find more solutions to discover better ways of producing energy. Throughout our lives in the rest of the world, there will continue to be advances in energy sources that will be used. Many sources of energies will have to be used to continue supplying energy at the rate that is needed. Even now, the United States is not completely dependent on fossil fuels. Every one of the energy resources listed above is already being used to some extent. It is unrealistic to believe that there will be one holistic source of energy in the future, especially when each brings its own unique benefits to the table.